Again, good morning. Someone points at a couple somewhere and says, there's a couple who love each other. I mean, those two really love each other. Aren't they so cute? What would that mean? What would they be doing to elicit that response? Do you know any couples that might fit that bill? Someone says, there's a parent who loves their kids. I mean, all parents hopefully love their kids, but that parent really goes above and beyond. They really love their kids. Or that person really loves their family. They love their family. What would that mean? What would that look like? Do you know anyone who would fit that bill? You might say, there's someone who really loves their dog. That dog is loved to pieces. The luckiest dog in all of Bernards Township. What would that look like? Do you know anyone who just really loves their dog? Or what if someone said, this person loves people? They've never met a stranger. They would give someone on the street the shirt off their back. If they have $1, everyone's got $1. They just love everyone they come in contact with. Or someone was to say, this person, they love their community. Every week, every day, they're trying to make their community a better place. Or this person, they love their country with all their heart. What would that look like? What would they need to do to sort of show those things? And do you know anyone who fits that bill? But then you could think about it, you could expand it so it wasn't just a person who was really doing the loving, but a community, and perhaps even a church community, a community of faith. Can you imagine someone saying, that church loves its neighbor as itself? Jesus said it, and everyone says they do it, but no, this church does it. They do it. What would that look like? Or you could say, this church really loves anyone, everyone that walks through their door is loved. You could tick through the groups of people that Jesus calls on us to minister to in Matthew 25 and say, here's a church who loves the hungry, who loves the poor, who loves the sick. They do everything they can. If someone's sick, they just love on them like it's nobody's business. There's a church that loves the imprisoned. They're always going down to the prison and making those people feel loved. There's a church that loves the stranger, people who are here but who aren't from around here. This church loves them. What would that look like? What would it mean for a church to embody that? And I shudder to ask, do you know any churches that might fit that bill? Every once in a while. In the first epistle to John, which Lee read this morning in person, welcome Lee, John says, we know love by this, that he, meaning Jesus, laid down his life for us. We know love when we see Jesus, and especially when we see Jesus on the cross. And that should make sense if you were thinking through of the people and churches that you might know that might fit that loving bill. When we recognize love in other people, when they aren't focused in on themselves, but when they focus out on the people in front of them, their spouse, their friends, their family, their dog, the hungry. Jesus on the cross is sort of the ultimate example of someone who is not focused on themselves and their own needs, but focused literally on everyone else who had ever lived and who ever would live. We know love by this. And then John goes on and says, and we ought to lay down our lives for one another. Like, it's not just enough to look at the cross and say, well, that was That was great. We see love there. John says we see the cross, and it's meant to stir something within us so that we then are doing the loving. We see Jesus on the cross, and we want to be like Jesus, loving other people, so that John could maybe even say of us, we know love by this. He asks a question then. He says, how does God's love abide in anyone who has the world's goods and sees a brother or sister in need and yet refuses help? And of course, the way he asks the question, it answers itself. God's love isn't there. God's love abides where people are not focused inward, but are focused outward. In the beginning of the last paragraph of our lesson, and this is his commandment, that we should believe in the name of his Son Jesus, because belief is important, because faith is important, because believing in Jesus means something. And love one another. It's not just enough for our belief to stay here or even here. It's got to come out. We have to take that attention that we put on ourselves and put it on others. Maybe so that when they see us, they go, there's a person who really loves. There's a community, a church that really loves. John Allen Turner, a public theologian and author, wrote this. He says, it's hard to convince people that a God they can't see loves them when a church they can see doesn't seem to like them. It's true. So I want you to imagine tomorrow morning, and right before you put your feet on the floor, or maybe right before you go out the door with your keys in your hand, I want you to imagine yourself saying just a little prayer, a quick one. God, today I'm going to love. Today, people will know love by what I do. And maybe even today is too broad. Like you might forget by lunchtime. But okay, this morning I'm going to love. For the next 5 minutes, I'm going to love. And then you worry about the next 5 minutes from then. And then you make it through those 5 minutes, and you love everyone that you come in contact with, and then you do it the next 5 minutes, and then you do it in the afternoon, and then you do it in the evening. What would that day be like for you? What would that day be like for everyone around you? Now, if you do this, and I kind of hope you do, please remember that God has an amazing sense of humor. And so don't be surprised if then the first person you come in contact with in the outside world isn't one of those people that is the hardest person for you to love. They're like, you see them just like, oh no. There's the person that I just avoid at all costs. There's the person that makes my blood boil. They're the person that I just completely disagree with. You're standing at the checkout aisle at the ShopRite, and the person in front of you just pulling out coupon after coupon, one after the other for 15 minutes. And you're like, God, what did I pray this morning? But then imagine still loving. And then loving the next 15 minutes and the 15 minutes after that. Imagine at the end of the day, someone thinking to themselves, I saw a person today, and they really loved. How can we convince people that a God they cannot see loves them if we, who they can see, won't dare to just love them to pieces? No matter who they are, no matter how they are, no matter what they are. As John says, little children, let us love.